Donald Trump Jr., Executive Vice President for the Trump Organization, son of the 45th President of the United States. Welcome back to Newsmax. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself, Greg?
Pretty good. Although, you know, you were not exaggerating. What they have done to free speech, what they have done to your dad, what they have done to so many of us on social media is appalling. You know about Facebook and what they did today, what they announced. What are your thoughts right now?
Listen, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Donald Trump was one of the first people to really, start fighting back against that. I've done the same for the last 5 years against sort of the tyranny of big tech, everything that's going on out there. I mean, I wrote Liberal Privilege last summer. Turns out all the predictions I made in that book are coming true times about 10. And that's the reality. The Republican Party has traditionally valued sort of that, that freedom and, you turn the other cheek and you accept someone else's opinion. The left is opposite. Their policies, liberalism is their religion. This is a blood sport for them. There's nothing they won't do to prevent this. They don't want someone to have a platform. You saw, literally like at the Democrats today, like their, verified Twitter account, demanding that Facebook permanently ban Donald Trump because they understand that Donald Trump, unlike so many in establishment politics, actually resonates with the American people. They understand what he means. He's having a conversation with them, not lecturing at them like the Democrats seem to do. They're deathly afraid of that, and that's why they want to silence anyone who has the ability to move the needle, anyone who has the ability to actually get out there and make sense of the stupidity of the Democrat Party platform and especially this administration's platform.
It's amazing. He's so good at it. He's a master at it. He's a million times better at it than anybody in the Biden administration. And that's where this is coming from. I firmly believe that. By the way, how does it feel for you to be out of the limelight a little bit? I mean, you're still ultra famous. Your name is Donald Trump. But, you're not being subpoenaed up on Capitol Hill, which, by the way, was pure harassment. We see the situation with Hunter Biden and everybody just kind of, it's all fine. What are you going through right now, the past couple of months? It's been a bit of a transition, I'm sure.
Well, somewhat. I mean, you still have a lot of that nonsense, all political, that's playing out, all over the place, sort of the retribution. Let's try to get Trump that way. Honestly, for me, whether I'm a bit of a masochist or not, I don't know, but it doesn't bother me. I mean, I sort of feed off of their hate. When they come at me, when I know that I'm right, when I know that my values are sound, when I know that conservatism and capitalism and the things that we truly espouse, on our side of the table are right, I'm willing to fight for them. Perhaps it's why I've been able to make a little bit of a name for myself within conservatism. Not enough people on our team are willing to engage. They're not willing to fight. They're sort of happy to take the loss and let's just take the loss and move on, even if we're 100% right. That's not really my style. So for me, not a lot has changed. I'm still engaged in the fight. I'm still out there every day. And, even on some of those platforms, just because, they haven't thrown me off yet, the reality is that's a way to get out there. So, I'm on all those platforms. I'm writing books about it. I'm on TV talking about it. We have to wake up to what's actually going on. This doesn't resemble, in many cases, an America that we all, grew up in and love. And you see those freedoms slipping away on a daily basis. So we have to be engaged. We have to be involved. We can't just sit back and hope that reason will prevail in the Democrat Party, because reason is out the window. Common sense, it's not so common anymore. It barely exists.
I love what you're saying, Donald Trump Jr., really. What's your advice to people who are watching? And I'm curious, you are pushing the envelope. You're out there fighting the fight every single day. Do you feel like you're on notice? Are they hassling you, big tech management? Do you get shut down from time to time? Do you get warnings? Because I do know a lot of people are holding back. They just feel like, I can't necessarily say that about November. I can't necessarily say that about January. I'm afraid of the heat. I'm afraid of being deplatformed.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, I see that all the time. I see that, I'm pretty good at the social game. I understand exactly what's going to happen every time I hit send. And, the amount of sort of fake censorship and the nonsense fact checking, about either opinion or this where, everything's out of context, meaning they can manipulate context to mean whatever the heck they want it to be, even if it's very clear. I mean, I've had, actual video of other people. Well, it's missing context, therefore we're going to ding you. It's like, what's the context? It's on video. It's right there. People can judge for themselves. They don't allow that. So, I've definitely been censored on a lot of these platforms. I've definitely been sort of shut down on a lot of the platforms to an extent. I see sort of my engagement numbers. I see sort of the hits. One platform, it was last week, I had close to 30 million impressions, averaging about 250,000 likes per post, and I had 304 new followers. I have a feeling that's not statistically possible. If they're not actually doing something behind the scenes, manipulating my ability to get reach. They're probably saying, hey, he can reach the people who want to follow him, but no one else will ever see that thing. It's going to be buried in the ether or, so far down the scroll. I see it regularly. My daughter was searching for my page the other day on one of the platforms, literally types in my handle. My daughter types in my handle, and it's like, your stuff doesn't show up. I show up on page 6. Behind, Don Jr. _32641, with 2 posts and 1 follower. Like, it's pretty flagrant. I know the game better than most. I understand exactly what things are going to do, and I also understand when I'm being crushed in terms of reach and in terms of the censorship, because it's so obvious when you've done it as long and as well as I have.
Finally, listen, I know you're asked from time to time, hey, your name, people ask about, hey, Donald Trump Jr. for president, would you support him? Your name does come up fairly routinely in those surveys. What are you thinking? If not president, senator, governor, something. Is that something you're looking at?
Maybe in time. I think you got to want the job. I like being in the fight. The reality, I think I can do a lot more just being, an outsider, not being beholden to anyone. I think the Republicans often get themselves in trouble, as we've seen with sort of the corporate boycotts these days, when they sort of say, well, I got to be part of that establishment group. I like being an outsider. I can take on who I want, including those on our own side, like the Rhinos, the Liz Cheneys, the Mitt Romneys, the Kinsingers of the world. I have a great time sort of, not having to follow the decorum that would be required if you're the politician. So, it's an honor that, that I've shown up in some of those things and pretty high on some of those polls. I mean, I take that like it's one of the greatest compliments I could ever receive, frankly, because that's from the American people, the people that my father chose to represent, the hardworking men and women of this country. Those are the people that matter to me, not the establishment politicians. So it's an honor. I'm going to be in the fight one way or the other, but, maybe down the line, you never know.
All right, Donald Trump Jr., we appreciate it so much. Please give our best to the family, including the 45th, and take care, all right?
Thanks a lot, guys. Be well.
All right.
So Facebook now has 6 months to make an official decision on the fate of President Trump's social media accounts with them. Here is my prediction. Facebook will ban President Trump permanently. He won't care because he's going to have his own platform soon, and Facebook joins Twitter as the next MySpace. Remember them? Exactly. Joining me now is someone who may have a better idea as to some of my predictions, whether they're right or not, as former senior advisor to President Trump and national chair for the Eric Greitens 2022 Senate bid in Missouri. Kimberly Guilfoyle is here. Kim, it's great to have you back on the program.
Great to be with you, Grant.
So, Kim, I guess
can you
this
believe
couldn't
it?
have
So
come as a
Facebook,
surprise, right?
really shock and awe here. But what it does tell you is that these elites in Silicon Valley really shouldn't have the power that they have. They've become too big, that they would actually ban a former president. And by the way, not just a former president, but the front runner for the 2024 election. Let's be honest. But President Trump and the movement that he created, the America First agenda, and all the policies and programs that he implemented are far bigger than any one company. And you're absolutely right. Remember MySpace? No one really does. So let's see what happens. The bottom line is he is able to reach so many Americans. They're going to try to censor free speech in the democratic process, but they're not going to be able to stop, God-loving, liberty and freedom-loving, First Amendment-loving Americans and conservatives out there. They're going to express their viewpoints and support a former president that they believe in and that they anxiously await if he will actually make a decision to run again in the future. So his popularity remains immense, and he is still really the kingmaker in the Republican Party.
All right, so Kim, you know, President Trump coined the phrase fake news, and it's just perfect. I use it all the time. So many people do. Now, let me give you a little taste of fake news today once news came out that the ban was going to remain in place. Watch this.
The suspension of former President Trump was necessary to keep people safe.
Obviously, Facebook has its own motives in this. You know, let's be clear, they're a profit-making enterprise. They wouldn't have done this if they didn't think it was good for business.
He doesn't need to contaminate the airwaves all over the world with Facebook. You know, I mean, I think about, you know, if this was in 1940s in Italy, would we want Mussolini on the radio? No, we would not.
Oh, my God. Would we want a cackling hen on TV and her? No, we do not, but we have her. Kim, I don't even know if it deserves a response, really.
Well, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The hypocrisy, the hysteria, the censorship is very un-American, and this is why they're going to see that they're going to lose, you know, the House, and they're going to lose the Senate in 2022, and a Republican, perhaps even President Trump, is going to win the White House back in 2024. They do not see the mess that they are making and how outraged people are across this country, and it's just shameful, but they're bringing this down on themselves, but we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to fight and go forward. Let me tell you something. The president looks better and stronger than ever. He is such a fighter. He has immense support, and people are tired of it. They already want like a mulligan from dealing with Biden and Kamala Harris. The things that they are doing, even liberal Democrats are saying, wait a second, what is going on in this country right now?
How great would it be if we could only get a mulligan? I would die for one of those right now, but 2024 is our mulligan, and it sounds like there's still hope of maybe him coming back in 2024, Kim. But before I let you go, you're part of a big race. Eric Greitens running in Missouri. You got the McCloskeys running there, too. I think they're both really great guys, Mark McCloskey and Eric Greitens. Coincidentally, though, both being vilified, prosecuted by this Kim Gardner prosecutor in St. Louis. She's out of control, Kim.
It's out of control. She shouldn't have her job. She should also not have her license to practice law. 62 acts they found probable cause of professional misconduct. As a former prosecutor, I take this so seriously. It's actually astounding when you think about it. And 79 false representations in a vicious, malicious smear campaign against then Governor Eric Greitens. But this has been a big vindication for him. He's a total fighter. He's a hero. He's a Navy SEAL who served his country admirably, 2 New York Times bestsellers, a Rhodes Scholar, but he never gives up. And it reminds me of President Trump when he was fighting back in 2016 and fighting back now. And I know that, you know, Eric is somebody who fought very hard for the America First agenda and for President Trump. And not only that, someone that tried to drain the swamp and also fight against Antifa. Wow. And what did he get? He got this smear campaign against him, a vicious prosecution. It is absolutely outrageous, and there must be ramifications. There must be some action taken forward against this person. It is just unbelievable what's transpired here. But, you know, Eric has been a strong fighter, and he'll continue to fight when he's elected the senator for the great state of Missouri, and we're looking forward to making it happen.
Well, you know, it's a common theme now in this program. We're talking about lock 'em up politics, played by the Democrats, and that's fitting right in here as well. He came on the program. I really do. I like him. He was a nice guy, is a nice guy. Mark McCloskey's a nice guy, too. But good luck with that race. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the program. Give our best to the whole crew back there. And thank you, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, let's broaden this discussion now. Bring on somebody who is no stranger to big tech censorship. We are joined now by California Congressman Devin Nunes, also the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure to be with you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Some Democrats are really loving this decision. This is what one of your buddies, Adam Schiff, had to say about this in a tweet. The former president can rant all he wants. Facebook, Twitter, and Google made the right decision. Without remorse, he continues to push out the big lie that got people killed. That's a threat to our democracy and a precursor to more violence and division. Keep him banned. I have to say that is quite rich coming from Adam Schiff. What do you say?
Well, I think good riddance to Google, to Facebook, to Twitter. I think the sooner we can get away from these social media giants, the better. In the meantime, we have to be ready. The Republican Party has to be ready. If the American people reward us with the majorities next year, we have to have legislation and subpoenas ready to break these companies up because we've seen enough. They're censoring conservatives and Republicans, and this decision today is not surprising, quite frankly.
And a comment like that from Devin Nunes, who has lied, has pushed, or I'm sorry, Adam Schiff. I'm talking to Devin Nunes. To hear this from Adam Schiff, a person who has lied, who has put out dangerous lies into this country for years that hampered a presidential administration. What do you say to that?
Well, we're at a spot in this country where millions of Americans are being poisoned by the socialist Democrats and the left. It started many years ago, but for sure in 2016 when they started this nonsense about Russia. The social media companies ran with that. They continued to let this hoax be promoted, whether it was the Russia hoax or the Ukraine impeachment hoax. This is all part of the left's plan to introduce propaganda into the ecosphere to where it poisons the minds of Americans. And so the Democrats are very good at this. What they do is they build narratives, and they drop these narratives on the American people because, look, the viewers that are viewing Newsmax right now, they're viewing Newsmax right now because they're not buying what all of these social media companies, these tech oligarchs are selling, and they're not buying what the mainstream media is selling. So every day that goes by that Newsmax gets more of an audience, the better off we all will be, because the American people can get real information and hear from people that are actually trying to do what we have in front of us, which is a very difficult job with all the threats that our country now faces.
Interesting, yeah. The Democrats in this seem to have discovered libertarianism in some way. Here's Jen Psaki today basically saying that this is just an internal matter for Facebook.
This is an independent board's decision, and we're not going to have any comment on the future of the former president's social media platform. That's a decision that it sounds like the independent board punted back to Facebook to make in the next 6 months. The major platforms have a responsibility related to the health and safety of all Americans to stop amplifying untrustworthy content.
So what do you say to conservatives who hate what big tech is doing but don't want to interfere with private business?
Well, I would go back to the beginning of the last century when companies got so big where they said that, hey, it doesn't matter. There's only a few companies that are providing, let's say, a rail across the country. They said, you don't have to use that. You can use a cart and a wagon attached to some horses. Yeah. So that's where we're at, and things are not always the same. And so I think they're using laws. You have to remember they're actually using laws on the books that are special laws that most Americans don't have. That's called Section 230. Right. So they're using that law to abuse the system, to create a political operation for themselves. And one more thing, Rob, that you have to remember. Let's talk about election interference. Facebook gave $350 million. Most of that money, we still don't know where it all went, but we think that most of that money went into the top targeted states, into the top counties where the Democrats had to pull off overwhelming victories in order to win this last election. So that's $350 million. So you think the White House is ever going to argue with Zuckerberg, who gave them $350 million? They're not.
It's super scary when you see these people teaming up, when you see the Democrat Party teaming up with the likes of these tech oligarchs, as they call them now. And I think that's a great way to describe them. Finally, I want to switch gears here for a second. I want to talk about Liz Cheney. This is getting pretty interesting. The number 3 Republican in the House has consistently been at odds with President Trump, even though, ironically, they vote together quite a lot. She wrote an op-ed this afternoon in the Washington Post. It reads in part, "Finally, we Republicans need to stand for genuinely conservative principles and steer away from the dangerous and anti-democratic Trump cult of personality." What is your reaction to all of this, and what do you think happens here with Cheney?
Well, the most important thing you said there was that a Republican placed something in the Washington Post, which, by the way, is owned by a tech oligarch, Amazon. So that's a problem in and of itself. We should not, Republicans, and I talked to all the members about this, we should not be catering to these people because Amazon, by the way, this is an intelligence operation that they're running at the Washington Post, and all they do is smear and defame on almost a daily basis. So they've done it to me, they've done it to others, and look, we're trying to hold them accountable in the courts. So any Republican that's placing what I would say is a very extremist type of language in the Washington Post is problematic at best.
Yeah, understood. All right, Congressman Devin Nunes, sir, thank you so much for taking the time. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.